You're listening to Tusk Talks Radio. Stay tuned as we talk about important community topics and what's happening at Kent State Tuscarawas. Learn about the campus and its academic programs, athletics, student activities, performing arts center events, and community involvement. The purpose of Kent State Tuscarawas is to help you find yours. With 27 degree programs, low tuition, and excellent faculty, you can create your own success story at Kent State Tuscarawas.
It's coming up on 8:30, and welcome to Tusk Talks. Today, our guest is Dr. Sankalp Sharma. He's the agribusiness assistant professor, and he's coming on the air with us now. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Robert.
It's a pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the agribusiness program there.
So the point with the agribusiness program basically is that we want to sort of combine the essential ideas of agriculture in general, but the emphasis really has to be on the business and financial strategies that anybody who learns about them can use in an agricultural context. So let me sort of elaborate a bit. If you think about it, there's tons of programs which can give a student knowledge about business and related finance. But what we sort of provide is a distinctly agricultural bend to it. So if you look around the community in the Tusk region or in general, just the Ohio region, a lot of people who come from farming backgrounds or people who are interested in agriculture in general, they're very good at their knowledge about what's happening on the field. So if there's somebody who is a farmer, for example, they or their family members, they already would have a very good idea of what to do in the field. And so we don't want to focus on that per se, while that is super important. What we want to go beyond is look at what can we do once the farming aspect is essentially done. So that's essentially where the thrust of the program is, to give members of the farming community, or if you're a student who's coming from a farming community, all those strategies that you can use then to market your product much more effectively. And that's one aspect. And then the other, of course, is that if you're somebody who's going to learn something from the program, and if you want to return back to your farm or to an agriculture-related organization, you can use those strategies to essentially make your own operations much, much better. So those are sort of like the two main things that we want to focus on. Now, in general, you can also be somebody who is a student who's just interested in agriculture, and whether you want to, pursue agriculture at a higher educational level, like a master's or PhD level, you can get enough from the program as far as that is concerned. And then just the three main ideas that if you're somebody who's coming from a farming background, you can get a lot of this program. And then if you're somebody who's just never really thought about agriculture but is interested in it, you can come to this program and then most likely get a job in an agriculture-related industry. And you're somebody who's coming either from a farming background or a non-farming background, and you're just interested in higher studies like master's or PhD, this program is also pretty much perfect for you. Also, if we just sort of look at the data, we already have about 7 or 8 graduates. In fact, this very spring, despite the COVID situation, I had 2 additional graduates, and we know that there's going to be at least 3 more by the end of this fall. So ever since I joined the program in fall 2017, we've had about 10 graduates, and gradually the program is picking up steam. So there's a small but a good related community of students, and I see a lot of enthusiasm within the program itself.
Yeah, Doctor, we have Dr. Sankalp Sharma. He's the agribusiness assistant professor at Kent State Tusk. Tell us a little bit about teaching remotely and the challenges you've had.
So this has been an interesting time, I guess, for a lot of faculty members. But at least what I faced was that I like to teach face-to-face. A lot of my teaching style is heavily reliant on interaction. So once we all switched to remote, we have tools like Blackboard, and there's certain video software available which can sort of help maintain. So the challenge essentially is how do we as faculty members maintain the interactive ability with our students? Because quite often what happens is that even if you're doing like a live session, and a lot of my sessions were live once we switched to remote, the students are there, but how do you sort of get them to interact? Because let's say you ask them a question and nobody really wants to turn on their microphone to actually, ask a question. But that was the initial phase. Once, the students sort of realized that this was going to be their reality for like a month and a half, at least until the semester ends, they did open up. And then, we as professors, at least what I did was that just, tried to figure out ways, how to get students to talk more, either through just asking questions through chat or, anonymizing their names, stuff along those lines, to just get people to make sure that, at least because you're speaking basically in a microphone, hoping that others are paying attention. And the only way you can really verify it is if students are asking questions, either speaking out or writing something in the chat. So that's just the aspect of remote learning that has been really interesting for us faculty members. And I don't know what's going to happen in the fall, but I'm confident that I feel like now that I have, like, my feet are wet in the water, I should be able to do a much more broader and more expansive job of engaging students, should we do remote in the fall as well. And I'm really hoping it doesn't come to that.
It seems that, everybody's having to adjust. This is something you really didn't plan on coming into, but it sounds like you're starting to adjust great at this time. This is, again, Dr. Sankalp Sharma, the agriculture assistant professor at Kent State Tusk. Tell us about policy making and your involvement in policy making in the agricultural business.
So this is actually a very good question. A lot of my research actually directly looks at policy making. I work primarily on two main things. One of them is sort of crop insurance and a lot of farm assisting programs that are available to farmers in the United States. And then the other one, which has sort of gotten a lot of attention recently, is the market facilitation program, which was specifically put in place by the federal government to help farmers affected by the U.S.-China trade war. And in general, just to give you a sense, one of the big challenges just the farming community is facing is that what we have is essentially an excess supply of food. And don't get me wrong, farmers in this country are very, very productive. They are the most productive group of farmers anywhere in the world. But the problem is that we as human beings, we can only consume so much food. So the U.S. has no food insecurity problem. Of course, there's tons of people who, have difficulty in accessing food, but that is more of a food distribution problem, not necessarily a food insecurity problem. So what I essentially look at is the key policy problem of our times is that now that we have so much food, how do we sort of resolve the situation? Because remember, it's just basic economics. If you have too much supply of something, then the prices are going to stay down. And if you look at the trends, farm incomes have been consistently declining since about 2013, once sort of the drought year ended back then. And the reason for that is that a lot of times farmers, they're just pushing themselves to make more and more food. But when you do that in the aggregate, the prices sort of stay low. And on top of that, once the U.S.-China trade war happened, there was basically like soybean, which is one of the biggest things that China buys. There was just nobody to sell it to. So obviously the federal government stepped in, and we actually looked at, there was one of the papers I published in 2018, and another one is coming out hopefully soon here in July. We're trying to assess how much of the MFP money actually helped the bottom line of the farmers, basically. So the key policy problem is how do we address this issue of too much food leading to lower prices for farmers? It's great for us. I mean, just consumers in general, lower prices, nobody complains about them, but farming still has to be a sustainable business. Another issue, of course, I don't know if you've heard, like the dairy business in this country is struggling a lot. Ohio specifically, because right now, of course, the COVID situation happened. So things have just gotten dire. But even before COVID, you have a classic issue of too much dairy and not enough consumption, leading to lower prices. So, yeah.
Thank you. This has been Dr. Sankalp Sharma. He's the Agribusiness Assistant Professor with Kent State Tusk. You've been listening to Tusk Talks right here on Big Hits, WBTC. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.